Okay, so we are going to be discussing today the halachot of Hakhnasat Sefer Torah. In truth, there is no siman in Shulchan Aruch that discusses Hakhnasat Sefer Torah, and it's purely all different traditions that we see from different sources. So let's discuss some of those sources, and we'll see, and we'll see what we can come up with in certain halachot that pertain to the Hakhnasat Sefer Torah. Now, it's written in Shiur Knesset Agdola in Orach Chaim Siman Resh Samechet. Shiur Knesset Agdola was one of the great Acharonim, the Beneviste, and it's commonly used. I think if I'm not mistaken, is originally from Turkey. And he writes the minhag was to put the Sefer Torah in the Bet Midrash 5 or 7 days prior, and then they would bring other Sefer Torah there to the house where it was being donated, where it was written, because every person wants to write a Sefer Torah or get somebody to write a Sefer Torah to fulfill the mitzvah of V'kitvu lachem. And we put it on a special teva, a special bima, he calls it, and we pray Arvit, Shacharit, and Mincha until we bring it to the Bet HaKnesset. So there's big parties until it's brought to the Bet HaKnesset. Rav David Pardo, one of the great Acharonim, Rabbi Kivego brings him down many times. In Shirot Utshuvot Michtam le David, Orach Chaim Siman Tedvav also writes a teshuvah, and he says Ma'asim bechol yom. It's a common practice. Ki makdish inish Sefer Torah, when a person consecrates a Sefer Torah, shemolichin etzlo Sefer Torah acherim in Bet Knesset. They bring the Sefer Torah from the synagogues there, lichvoda. במקום מיוחד שמזמינים בבית אותו שהשמחה במעולו. And also Rav Chaim Palaji writes the same thing, that in Siman Chavei Od Memhei, that they put the Sefer Torah from Rosh Hashanah until Simchat Torah, and Simchat Torah they already bring it b'shirot v'tishbachot. This is very interesting. In Morocco, the minhag was in Rabbi David Ovadia, in Nagua Am, the Sefer Noeg B'Chokhmah also discusses that they would have the Sefer Torah for 7 days in the house of the person giving the Sefer Torah, and every night the Chevra would come. There were different chevrot, different cities, Chevrat El Navi, Chevrat Kaddish, and they would come and they would make a big simcha, and for 7 days it was a tremendous simcha until eventually they would bring the Sefer Torah. Now, what's the source to this? Now, lechora, when you see here 7 days, you would say it's domit chatan to like simchat chatan vekala. Indeed, in the Sefer Magen Avot, there's a teshuvah from Rabbi Yasayag, very dear friend of mine, a Rav in he's one of the chief rabbi of Toronto, of the Bet Knesset Abir Yaakov, and he actually writes a beautiful teshuvah. It's printed in the Sefer Magen Avot Orach Chaim, the new edition, in the back, Siman Tafresh Memale, a page Tafresh Memale, Tafresh Membed, and he says it could be the reason is Chatan V'Kala. As a matter of fact, the Sefer Machzik Bracha, the Chida, writes a very interesting halacha that the first time that one reads from the Sefer Torah, the first time one takes out the Sefer Torah, it's a great simcha. You would say Shechianu, it's brought down in the Chida, and the Bet Yehuda, they would say Shechianu for the first time it's read. And if they find a mistake in it, they would look the other way. Just like Chatan en maskirim nik'o b'yom chupato, you rely on the opinion of the Rambam in Teshuvot. There's a Rambam in Teshuvot that says the one mistake doesn't possible the whole Sefer Torah, even though we don't rely on that opinion. But as a Lichvod Torah for the first time, I remember a situation where they had a beautiful and very expensive Sefer Torah in a very important synagogue. It wasn't a Moroccan synagogue; it was an Ashkenazi synagogue in Yerushalayim. And mamash 1 or 2 days in, they found that some of the letters they were spaced too close. They were spaced too maybe the same word. The letters were spaced too far away, and the Rav, who happens to be a big posek, especially in this inyan of stam, saw it. He said pasul, and they had to switch it. It's a couple weeks in. It wasn't the first time, but it can happen.
So now, how come we say Shechianu on the Sefer Torah?
So it's a Shechianu, just like it's a tremendous simcha. It's like a kelim chadashim, I guess that you would say.
But we don't say Shechianu on Tefillin, right?
Right, because
so
Tefillin, and one of the reasons is because it's coming from an animal.
Same reason. Right?
Very interesting. But the Sefer Bet Yehuda, maybe it's Simcha Yetera by the Sefer Torah. I don't know, maybe because you're being Mekayem a special mitzvah, Ve'ata kitvu lachem, et mitzvah azot. Even though by Tefillin also you're Mekayem a mitzvah the first time. the Moroccan minhag was to say Shechianu for the first
Bar
time.
mitzvah, I think.
For the bar mitzvah.
That's because of the bar mitzvah.
Because it's the first time he's doing the mitzvah, so it would be consistent over here also. That it's the first time that you're doing the mitzvah of Ve'ata kitvu lachem. Maybe that's what the mitzvah is on. Al kol panim. The logic would be that just like it's such a simcha, on the first time that you read the Sefer Torah, you shouldn't say Tahanun. You shouldn't say Tahanun. And indeed, this was our custom, brought down in a couple of sources, that the Sefer Nagua Am writes that for the first time that they would take out the Sefer Torah, there wouldn't be Tachanun on the day of the Hakhnasat Sefer Torah. That's number one. And also the first time that we take out the Sefer Torah, I spoke to Rabbi David Banon, used to be a Rav in a Dayan in Casablanca, and also Rabbi Yasai told me the same way that's the common minhag, that the first time that the Sefer Torah is read, that day Tachanun is not said. On that day Tachanun is not said. And for sure the day of the Hakhnasat Sefer Torah, it's brought down this halacha in Rav Ovadia Yosef has a teshuvah written in Ktav Yad, printed in the Sefer Yalkut Yosef in Yilchot Nefilat Apayim of Chav Gimel, and also one of the great Rabbanim, he was niftar, but he used to be a Rav in Australia, Rav Betzalel Stern, in Shelot Utshuvot Betzel HaChochma. He was the brother of the Debreciner. And in Chelek Gimel Siman Yudalet also writes, as Hakhnasat Sefer Torah, the minhag is already not to say a bracha of Shechianu. And al kol panim, not to say Tachanun, and on the first time also, as it's written, is to make a bracha of Shechianu. Now, it seems to be from the Zohar HaKadosh, the Bet Yehuda brings, the Zohar HaKadosh says, Lo chal eser kadishin ad de'ay la'echal. Until it comes to the Echal, it doesn't get its full Kedusha, so it seems to be it's an important thing bringing into the Aron HaKodesh the Hakhnasat Sefer Torah, and because of that there seems to be a lot of shirot v'tishbachot. Now there was different customs how exactly during the Hakhnasat Sefer Torah what there would be. There was a minhag that women would be allowed to be tofer, to sew the seams of this Sefer Torah. This is brought down in Shelot Utshuvot Shemesh Umagen, that we would be lenient, that women would be able to sew up the Sefer Torah. It's brought down in Magen Avot Ur Yoredea, Marei Mekomot, to that, because it's not even though she's not able to write a Sefer Torah, but actually she's allowed to participate. And there's all discussion. It's not our topic, but they had that custom, and obviously there was a custom to put in a lot of different clothing on the Sefer Torah, and in that area it would differ from place to place how there would be minhagim in that regard. Interesting, I found out yesterday that the Shelot Utshuvot, actually on Sunday night I found it, V'natan David, that's a Shelot Utshuvot written by Rabbi David Ovadia, the Mechaber Sefer Nagua Am, right? Rabbi David Ovadia. And he writes over there that the minhag was to give the Sefer Torah on Shavuot time, B'yom Matan Torah. There was a custom like that on Shavuot. I guess the second day of Shavuot they would do a lot of Shirot Tishbachot. I've heard of this minhag before, and I've heard it being done. So that's a beautiful thing. B'yom Matan Toratenu, it's a whole big simcha. I guess you can't have the whole music and the bands, right? But it's you have
You mentioned before that they will do it also in Simchat Torah. No?
There was the Kaf HaChaim Palaji wrote Simchat Torah. The Kaf HaChaim Palaji wrote Simchat Torah. But Al Kol Panim Bayas, a lot of times it's Shavuot. Nowadays, anybody when they're able to do it, we also don't do 7 days. I guess people have more work nowadays that they're able to take off every single day, make a big party. Also, the Tachdid would be a whole 7-day procession until the Brit Milah would come. So, but the day that we do Hakhnasat Sefer Torah, for sure Tachanun shouldn't be said, and that's obviously on that day. And I assume that it would be in that Beit Knesset with those people. But let's say the Hakhnasat Sefer Torah is over, it's not better than a Brit Milah. Just like by Brit Milah, by Minchat time, many poskim say to say Tachanun, although some say not. I would say Hakhnasat Sefer Torah, if it's right by that ma'amad, fine. But if everybody went home and then they come back, I would think al pi svara that's not enough to exempt. Not the day becomes a day of simcha. It's because it's a matzav of simcha, once the matzav is gone, that it's not done. Now, one very interesting halacha regarding being magdisha Sefer Torah that Chachmei Morocco speak about. They don't speak about it extensively, but they definitely, it comes up. And this is a question already brought down in the Bet Yosef and in the Shulchan Aruch, is when somebody is magdish a Sefer Torah, when somebody consecrates a Sefer Torah, to who does it belong to? Does the Bala Sefer Torah have the right to move it from one place to the other? Let's say he wants to, for some reason, he wants to go to another shul. Is he allowed to take the Sefer Torah along with him? So the Maharik in Siman Ayin was one of the first to discuss this question. And the Maharik writes that and there was a whole machloket there who the Sefer Torah belonged to, and he says the lo shayach chazaka b'Sefer Torah. It's not possible a chazaka. How are you doing that? It's not possible a chazaka on a Sefer Torah. Ha'asui mitchilato al minat ken sheyikreu bo rabim. It's not shayach a Sefer Torah in a place where many people are going to read it from. And it's known that it's there until the Ba'alim decide to take it from somewhere else. And even if we're discussing right now, when somebody donates a Sefer Torah, does he have the right to take it back outside of the shul? So the Marik says that even though people could testify that they gave it for the shul, but those people are biased. So you can't rely on their testimony anyways. So he says really it's the person who it belongs to. And the Bet Yosef brings this marik, and the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Kuf Nun Gimel Se'iv Chaf is posek this way also, and he says, and I'll read it out to you. He says, Yesh Mishomer, it's because the Marik said it, there's only one person who says Yesh Mishomer, but nobody argues, at least in the Bet Yosef. Shesefer Torah Shiyuchzak Shaya Shel Avotav Shel Reuven and Hatzibur Yochlim Leachzik Bo. The Tzibur is not allowed to say it's theirs. And the Taz brings down the Shilot Utshuvot of the Maharshal, Rabbi Shlomo Luria, who argued. Rabbi Shlomo Luria argued, and he said no. If it's already theirs, unless there was a specific condition made that they're not giving it, then it's stama. It's considered the property of the shul. The Mishnah Berurah brings down this Taz, and he brings down the Marshal. And the Mishnah Berurah says, Me'ikar adin, it should belong to Me'ikar adin, it should belong to the owners, and that's the common minhag nowadays, that it should belong to the owners.
So the owner, when he goes to a shul and he doesn't go to that shul anymore, he can take it with him.
Yes, and he'd be able to take it along with him. And it's unless he said, I'm donating it to the shul specifically. But when a person gives a Sefer Torah to the shul and he doesn't say anything, Mishnah Berurah says the Ikar Halacha is like the Taz, which is supposed to be like the Marik, not like the Marshal. That a person, when he gives a Sefer Torah, he can really take it back whenever he wants. However, it's interesting to note in the Shelot Shuvot Shufra de Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Berdugo, one of the great Chachamim from Meknes, and he brings down the Shelot Shuvot, the Shuvat Marshal, the Marshal who argued on the Taz and said that really a Sefer Torah that was donated, it's tam becheskat bet Knesset. And even if you want to tell me that sometimes the minhag is not the way, because sometimes he says the minhag in Morocco would be that a guy would take the Sefer Torah with him. He says, but that's because they didn't know the halacha, so it's minhag b'ta'ut. But really, it should have belonged to the shul, and they did wrong. It's a little difficult to say that. And these things really go according to the minhag, because this is a monetary question. And a monetary question is all dependent upon the prevalent custom just like a lot of monetary laws, even by the goyim lehavdil, you see what what a person had in his mind. What's the intent? And usually nowadays, it seems to be the way the Mishnah Berurah is saying, the intent nowadays when a person is given a Sefer Torah, it's not to be magdish it. It's that if he wants, he could go take it with him. That would seem to be what the Pashut Halacha is. And he says, even if you want to say the minhag is to give, is to give it, but if the Nadvan says that his mind was not that way, so the Aruch HaShulchan says, he says in Yoredea, by Ilchot Sefer Torah, he writes that the Aruch HaShulchan writes, בעיקר הדבר נראה לי בזיד, לא מקרה מנהג מבטל הלכה, זה כפי שכתב מרדכי, בנדבות לקדין תורה, והתורה נתנה רשות לנדוב ולנדור כל אחד כרצונו, מה שייך בזה מנהג מבטל הלכה. לכן, so even if a minhag was made, specifically that it should be to the shul, but the guy, he says, what do you mean? My dot is to give it and to take it whenever I go. So you can't say that it totally belongs to the shul. Interesting on this subject, I found that in the Shirot Utshuvot, Rabbi Chaim David Serero. I found that he wrote about this. I found it.
Yeah,
literally, that he wrote about this in new Shirot Utshuvot that came out. Rabbi Chaim David Serero is going to get to America soon. We had the schut of putting it out a couple of months ago. And it was a great simcha when it was put out that we should make a party about this on our own, right? Whenever we have an opportunity, we should make a party. When this farm gets shipped in, maybe we'll make a little suda. Remind me. And he has the question like this. This was when he was a Dayan in Mogador. Okay? When he was a Dayan in Mogador, he had this question. One guy called Hanania is complaining another guy called Avram, who is in charge of Chevrat HaZohar, that apparently Hanania donated a bunch of Sifrei Zohar, a table, and a menorah in the Bet Knesset. And Hanania wants it back, he wants to leave. And Avram is saying, no way, it's ours. So what should be the halacha? So he discusses back and forth, and he brings the Shilot Utshuvot Nofet Sofim, which was another Berdugo. It was Rabbi Tachya Berdugo, very famous Shilot Utshuvot. Rabbi Tachya Berdugo was the first one one of the first ones who argued on the famous psak of Rabbi Chaim ben Atar. Chaim ben Atar said that locusts are forbidden, even though it says in the Torah locusts are forbidden and everybody in Morocco is the locusts. Ala Chumash, Or Chaim HaKadosh writes, by the locusts, it says it's Asur, and ever since I ever said it was Asur, no locusts ever came to Morocco again. So Rabbi Tachya Berdugo over there writes, he says, I don't know what he's saying. All the Chachamims keep on eating it, and after he was niftar, they came again, the locusts, and we eat them. So in Siman Kuf Pe Gimel, he writes, Ma'asim bechol yom, mi shemitmotet min nechasav mocher sefer Torah shula. Somebody who lost all his money, he has a Sefer Torah in the shul, he sells it, and that seems to be the minhag. And therefore he writes that also the Sifrei Kodesh is the same way also. The Sifrei Kodesh should be that if one person donated it, he could have it back. Now it's written on the Hagaot on the bottom that I wrote, and I'll tell you what I think. I think that's only maybe in the time in the 1950s where it wasn't so common to have Sfarim and everything, and you don't understand, you really felt it was yours, and when you gave it, you didn't give it on giving it to the shul. But nowadays, who's going to say that by Sfarim? Obviously, when a Sefer, when they're Baruch Hashem, they're cheap and they get used up, you never donate Sfarim, books, Sidurim, that you're going to take them back. It's given lechalutin, and the minhag is that way nowadays. Oh, well, the minhag in Morocco is not that way. Obviously, that's going to be a minhag that depends upon the generation where you're at. Every person with a little bit of logic is going to tell you that. Just like somebody who says that, well, the minhag in Morocco is not to keep Shemitah. Well, maybe that's because there was a technical reason, but that obviously doesn't. You have to use your brain sometimes when minhagim, how they apply and how they evolve, and this is one of them. However, a Sefer Torah. So, and he makes a kal vachomer. He says a Sefer Torah that the kedusha is more chamur, and still you can take it back. All the more so the Sifrei Zohar. I don't think it has to do anything with that. Sefer Torah, it has to do with what you have in mind. In other words, and furthermore, it's brought down in the poskim that Rabbi Kiva Eger and others were of the opinion that if you donate the Sefer Torah to the shul, you don't have that mitzvah anymore. There's a mitzvah, ve'ata kitvu lachem, and you should have the Sefer Torah. But if you donated it to the shul, you don't have the Sefer Torah. So even though somebody says, there are some poskim, there's a Shirot Utshvot, Dovev Yesharim, from the Chabina Rav. It was one of the great Rabbanim of Yerushalayim after the war. And he has a teshuvah about this, and he says that even if somebody had in mind to really donate it, but that's because he didn't know the halacha that he would do the mitzvah. And even a lady who doesn't fulfill the mitzvah of kitvu lachem et hashira, she's not obligated in that mitzvah, and she donates a Sefer Torah, still, you're not going to start saying that, well, by a man, he has in mind not to give it totally because of the mitzvah, a lady not. It says even a lady, that halacha would be that way. This is what the Dovev Yesharim writes, and Rav Moshe Feinstein also has a teshuvah in Chelek Aleph, Siman Nun Bet, and many poskim, the Marsham, that's one of the Gedolei Ador by the Ashkenazim before the war, which was the Marsham Ibrazan, the Chelek Aleph, Siman Memchet, and many other poskim say this, that even if he says that, well, I want it to be Magdishit. I've seen Sefer Torah that they write on the Sefer Torah Azeh belongs still to this and this, and is Mushal to the Bet Knesset. One wants to be Machmir and write that, and there was a minhag to do that sometimes, that would be fine. But if he gives it stama, most poskim say that it will still belong to him, the Sefer Torah. Chazak u'baruch.
The mitzvah?
21 minutes.